Good afternoon. My name's Anthony Small. I'm the Executive Director of Music Preserves Foundation, and we, in partnership with the Capistrano Unified School District, are this week's Music Preserves Artist Spotlight will be Larry Bagby, a singer-songwriter and actor whose best-known roles include Ice in Hocus Pocus, Larry Blaisdell in the TV series Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and my favorite role of Larry's is Marshall Grant, Johnny Cash's bassist in the Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon movie Walk the Line. I'd just like to welcome you, Larry. How are you doing today?
How are you? It's good to see you. It's good to be with you again. You reminded me of some pretty cool history of how we met and how we've kept in touch, which has been great. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And what Larry's referring to is how he and I originally met was years ago on a show sort of like American Idol, but it was called Nashville Star, I believe. Larry and I each had made some of the cuts, and I got to know him as we were anxiously waiting to perform in the next rounds. And Larry ended up winning that regional in Los Angeles and going off to Nashville. And obviously, even before that time, you had a wonderful career, in acting and in music as well. And we've kept in touch. You've joined my band, Small World, on stage, and I've been lucky enough to join you and your band on stage too. I see Don Cromwell is there. How you doing today, Don?
Fantastic. Thank you. Glad to hang out in the back here.
All right. Yeah. Larry and Don will be performing some songs, a little bit later, as well as we'll have a student showcase with our student Peyton Goss, and she'll be performing a song via her YouTube video. So I guess let's get started, Larry, and just so you know, the audience today is high school and some junior high music students that have an interest in the career in music, or certainly an interest in music. So if we could kind of start from the start, and what was your initial relationship, or when did you know that you loved music and it was something that you were going to pursue?
First of all, hello everybody that's listening. I don't feel all that much older than you guys, at least mature. So it's always good to be with among the students. And I know it's been a strange time for everybody with school not really happening and graduating, but not getting to walk with their classes and things. So my heart goes out to you all in that regard. It takes special people to be able to hang in there. But yeah, music's been a real love my whole life. My dad, he was in a band and helped get himself through college by playing in like a top 40s dance band through our church's circuit. So they were kind of like a pretty hot band at the church dances through Southern California. And you talk to the right people, they probably remember the name of they were called the Latter-day Sensation. And my dad plays accordion, and it's pretty phenomenal because it's not so traditional the way he plays it. I mean, it's pretty amazing. He can kind of rock out on an accordion, believe it or not. Right. So I grew up surrounded by music and singing with my dad. He'd get me up on stage and kind of like taught me really just harmonies and all the great music that has influenced me today. The Beatles, Elvis, Doobie Brothers, Chicago. The Eagles, so many bands, and they just played all these great tunes. The Beatles especially, and that's kind of what made me want to be a songwriter too. So that's where it all began for me. I also what was I was fifth grade. I was in a show, The Wizard of Oz, and I got cast as Oz. I am Oz, the great and terrible. Who are you and what do you want? I remember that line. And then I sang, once upon a time I worked for a circus and I lived in Omaha, and then Omaha. It was so fun.
So you caught the bug then, huh?
I did, man. The idea of like getting up on stage and, you know, singing and acting and having people clapping, just thought you were great. It was kind of like it just happened early, and I still can't help but jump up on stage and sing and play. It's part of who I am.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're lucky to have your parents nurturing that passion in you, both in acting and, and in your music. I know that when you were growing up, that you even recorded, the technology obviously was much, much different. But while you were in junior high school and high school, you were making those 4-track recordings. These days, the kids, we all can use software to get pretty decent recordings just off of our laptops. But that back then it wasn't so easy, but you knew still that you wanted to capture that and develop your sound, if you will. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was fun to be able to, when the Tascam, it was like a 4-track. I think you could bus over and have 8 tracks if you knew how to take the 3 and push them over to the 4th, and then you have more tracks. Right. But yeah, just the idea of really kind of taught me how to start breaking down the parts and understanding, the different layers that happen. I remember my friend and it was my senior year in high school. We loved the Beatles song that I'd Just Seen a Face, and that opening thing that's probably done with 1 or 2 guitars. We picked all the parts apart and we just built it. And it took us like 8 tracks to get what I think George Harrison played on 1 guitar.
Right.
But anyway, just stuff like that. So there was a lot of experimenting going on there. And then, I watched your last episode. I thought this is a really great program you have. And the guy that plays with Willie Nelson's son, Lucas, is it Corey?
Yeah, Corey. That our last episode. Corey McCormick.
Yeah, great guy, man. Real interesting interview, and it seems real dynamic. And it was cool to hear him talk about just how he dreamed. Dreamed of playing with Neil Young and Chris Cornell and Willie Nelson, and then it was happening. And,
right.
And he said, the story he told about is having those flashbacks while he was on stage of being with his father, who had passed away, I guess. And just how that was just a full circle stuff. I thought that was really cool. And I was very impressed. What's that?
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, so have you experienced some of those things? Because, I mean, you also have had some very surreal and significant cultural moments on stage and on screen as well, with your roles, in the Johnny Cash movie Walk the Line. You played Marshall Grant, the bass player and best friend of Johnny Cash, and as well as one of your most beloved roles as Ice in Hocus Pocus. Everybody gets to see you, every Halloween, and I know you guys just celebrated I think 25-year, with the big show and anniversary. What can you tell me a little bit about those experiences and what that means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Very similar to what I was saying, that the surreal moments where you can't believe you're there, like you're among these superstars who you've been watching. I've always admired Joaquin Phoenix as an artist, as an actor. He's a chameleon. I've never really seen. I don't know. There's only a few actors out there. Robert De Niro maybe, and some Daniel Day-Lewis, but Joaquin is in the ranks with these guys. To get to work with them, I mean, and to be like one of a few. I remember getting to Memphis after we had rehearsed for a couple of weeks with T-Bone Burnett, which was another dream trip. And we were working on just learning how to play these instruments. None of us really knew how to. We were all somewhat musicians, but I didn't play upright bass until I got the movie, and I learned very quickly. And it was a crash course for sure. But to get to Memphis, and I have my cell phone, and I get a call, and it was Joaquin. He's like, "I'm coming to pick you up. We're we're going to go grab some food with Reese. And I'm just like, this is so weird. So I get to the hotel and we pick her up, and then it was just us three. And I was just like beside myself, you know, trying to be cool about it. But I remember I was pulling out I was doing impersonations and magic tricks for him, trying to just fill the time, because I'm like, what else? How do you do this? How does this work? But the more time you spent with them, the more comfortable it got, of course. But there's been many moments in my life, even with Hocus Pocus, Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker. Just as a kid, I was 17 and 18, I guess, is when I turned 18 while we were shooting. But it was so unbelievably surreal to be working with, people that you watched on film, and to be beside them and talking with them and hanging out when we're all human beings, But I feel very fortunate to have been able to cross paths with such talent and to be among these people. But we're all normal. Everybody's normal. We're just doing our job and hope to keep doing it.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. And, one of the things that when I got to text with you a little bit and ask if you'd be on the show, I asked if you wouldn't mind playing a song or two for us, and if you guys could go ahead and do that. I know you have Don Cromwell with you that plays in your band, and you guys are working on some new things, to be released soon. So without further ado, can I introduce Larry Bagby and Don Cromwell, and if you wouldn't mind just telling the kids what song or songs you're going to play, and then we'll bring it back when you're done.
Very cool. Yeah, and I'm with Don Cromwell here, who's a legend in itself. Another guy that I've been very fortunate to work with. He played bass for Air Supply for many years, 7 years on tour with them, and five with Air Supply, and worked with Eddie Money, and even recorded Eddie Money's 5 tracks on Eddie Money's last CD, which just came out, Brand New Day. So anyway, he's been among great singers, and he's producing me now. We've got a bunch of tracks, and it's been a blessing working with him. So anyway, the first song I'll do is a song from my last album called Country by the Sea, and it kind of tells a little bit of my story, a little bit of my history. It goes like this. Corn-fed hometown, California boy, love the ocean and the sunshine, waves settle me with joy. My mom's from West Virginia, daddy's from LA. Wear a cowboy hat, designer jeans, and that laid-back southern way. Well, I didn't go to college, study philosophy. My music through the faith is how he speaks to me. Don't have no certificate of what I am to do. I've got a genuine degree. Sing country by the sea. When I set my sails away from the stormy seas, a singer and songwriter, found what I want to be. But on my way down the path I've always known, winds they turn from north to south, red carpets to dirt roads. Well, I didn't go to college to study philosophy. My music through the faith is how he speaks to me. Don't have no certificate of what I am to be. I've got a genuine degree. sent for all you. Well, love is what connects us, heaven to earth and the sea. It's for the man dying for you and me. Well, he didn't go to college or study philosophy. The music through the faith is how it speaks to me. Don't have most get it. What you get is what you see. I've got a genuine degree. Little C is my philosophy. I recorded this here record for you and me. Sing country by the sea. The sea. All right, that's Country by the Sea. I also want to give a shout out to Peter Fox, who helped me write that song. Another good friend of mine. It's fun writing songs with your friends. It's the best.
Guys, thank you very much. All right. Well, thank you very much to Don Cromwell as well, as Larry Bagby there on that one. I wanted to just ask a couple more questions before we go to the portion of our show where we feature or spotlight a student's song. So we talked about your acting experiences. Could you talk a little bit about how, your background in character studies, how those acting experiences, how that's informed or improved your craft as a songwriter or a singer-songwriter and performer? I'm trying to see about those two worlds, the acting world and the music world, if your experience helps the other one.
Yeah, I'm going to let Don actually answer that question because he talks about this a lot with me and the portrayal of how you make it come to life and with the acting experiences.
Well, I don't have the acting experience, but as a producer, I always tell Larry, perform it. And he is a great actor, I will say. And so part of what makes him a great singer is his expressiveness. But I think the magic in any vocal and the acting thing I'll leave to Larry, but as far as a singer and performance, it's when you make people believe, and it sounds simple, but it's not. And Larry's voice and all the great singers make you feel like they're singing to you. And you hear every word, every nuance. I'm a stickler in the studio to a certain degree, but I love performances. And Larry's great at singing top to bottom, warts and all. We do 4 or 5 tracks and always end up with something special. So I think to all the people interested in the music side, it's about character and expression and making every word mean something. I've been fortunate, as Larry said, to work with some great singers in my career, and they all have that same common thing, and it's also called that it factor of making them sing, making it sound like they're singing to you. That's the magic of what I know about music and singers. As far as acting, I couldn't act my way out of a paper bag, but one of the things that attracted me about Larry when I first saw him live was that I believed him. And he had his own songs, and I respected that. And I had some songs like Bakersfield, and I said, man, you're going to sound good on this. And again, a producer's role is simply to bring out the best in an artist. And that's what I try and do.
Awesome.
Well said. I like to have representatives speak for me sometimes. No, but
I see how you.
it's yeah, it's always better if you have a representative taking care of
I see how you are now. You're in the big. You're in the
I'm
big leagues, Larry.
No, it's been a lot of fun being able to work with Donnie in the studio, because he also challenges me as a vocalist. And if he doesn't believe it or it doesn't sound right, he'll let me know and we adjust it. And there's a lot of detail that goes into it. I've sat with him many nights while he comped. Comping means putting all these different things together. That's the beauty of Pro Tools. But like you said, we like to usually take some good clean passes, warts and all, and then go in and try to fix what's not there. But yeah, musical theater, if anybody's interested in expanding not just your ability to sing, but musical theater is a great way, because you're on stage and you're also playing a character, and it's really important to not just sing it technically right, but to feel it and be able to translate that and then portray it. So like Don was saying, where it penetrates and people are like, I don't know what it is, but it makes sense.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, that's what makes great art, right? Is being able to make other people feel and open up their eyes and open up their hearts to to that. One of the things I wanted to make sure and mention is this coming Saturday, you have a listening party on your Facebook and social media for your new releases. It goes over some of your other songs and roles that you played as well. That's this coming Saturday at 1:00, I believe. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, 1:00. And we put together a compilation album of kind of some of our favorites and also some of the fan favorites over the years. And then an additional, we have 2 new songs on there. They're kind of bonus tracks that are part of the next album. But it's been fun kind of going back, because I didn't, we met how many years ago now? I guess it would be at least 10 or 12 years ago.
Yeah, at least that, Larry.
So I mean, that was the beginning of my country music interest, because I grew up here in California. A lot of rap and R&B, and of course I loved the Beatles, but and Elvis and all these old ones, but I didn't really know country music, especially not Johnny Cash and all the outlaws, Waylon and Willie and George Jones and all Merle Haggard, all that stuff. I began learning when I went back to Nashville, and that just opened my eyes up, and that's when I really, I guess, started learning, and my voice grew a lot. But it takes time to find your voice, not just as an actor, but as a singer.
That's a great perspective, and I'm super glad that you share that with our students. And speaking of our students, I'd mentioned the student spotlight portion of our show. At the end of each show, one of the students from Capistrano Unified School District, we play one of their songs. It can be an original or a cover, and they can be playing an instrument or not. Any students that are out there right now that would like to have their songs considered can email them to me for our finale, which will be in 2 weeks. So that will be on Wednesday in 2 weeks at 1:00, same time and same channel on Capistrano Unified School District. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Peyton Goss. Is a senior at South Orange County School of the Arts and at Dana Hills. And she says that she's loved music and singing since before she could even talk, and that music is one of the most important things in her life. She's going to be moving on to Chapman University this upcoming fall, studying in music with the focus in vocal performance. And so she mentions that music has always been an anchor for her, and as her family moved around, she was always able to connect to her community, through music. And she also had made some comments with regards to the quarantine, and she says it's never fun to watch the people around you in a city that you love try their hardest to avoid you, but it's so important to remember in a time like this to be kind and remember that we're all on each other's team. So pretty wise, and she's a wonderful performer. I've seen her, over the last few years, both in her acting and musical performances out in the community as well. So if we could pull that video up, it's the classic Fleetwood Mac song "Landslide," and we'll pull that up here. Just give me 1 second.
If you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills where the landslide brought me down, oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I built my life around you. But time makes you older, even children get older, and I'm getting older too.
That's great. Wow, beautiful.
Yeah, that's a real nice performance, and I just love the calmness and the serenity. I think that everybody can kind of use that these days. There's just a lot of everybody's going through these unprecedented times, and to be able to have music, and for me, personally, and for Music Preserves to be able to give the students an opportunity to express themselves, during this time is very important. So Music Preserves has a lot of programs in the schools with regards to supplementing U.S. history with American music history. And then this show is sort of the quarantine version of our backstage experience, where we take the young musicians backstage at the festivals like Doheny Blues Festival or Ohana Festival, etc. For these inspirational conversations, not that quick meet and greet, but these conversations with artists like yourself, and to get that perspective and to get that encouragement as well. One of the things that you said, Brett, before Peyton's song was that it takes time to develop your voice and to develop your art. Is there anything else that you would sort of like to leave the students with, any comments or encouragement?
And it made me want to just be right there at that campfire, just feeling that, because it's what we need. I think that comfort and that peace. You got a real soulful voice. It amazes me as we've seen all these shows now with all the talent in the world on The Voice and all these America's Got Talent, and the kids just get younger and more talented. It blows my mind. It's like there's special kids that are being born into this next generation. So keep it up.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And, Music Preserves, if you want to learn more about our programs, you can go to musicpreserves.org. And on social media, I know that folks can go to Larry Bagby Music, and also want to mention this coming Saturday at 1 o'clock, the listening party for Larry Bagby Essentials. Thanks a lot, man. It's so good to see you. It's been a few years, since I saw you, but always nice to catch up with you. And if you guys wouldn't mind just playing us out, thank you very much for being on our show.
Just give me a broken hearted one. Just jamming. 1, 2,
To you guys.